part of this. But yeah, so I think these are the faculty, and then the rest are the students, our TAs, who are a lot of them. So I cannot go through all of their names, obviously, otherwise we'll take up too much time. And just to introduce everyone to Jeremy, I think we can start. Are we ready to start the session? We are? Oh, we're recording. Yes. Okay, great. So then in that case, then maybe Jeremy, are you able to, let's check and then make sure we can.
All right, how are you? 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Can you hear me well?
We can hear you. Can
right,
you,
cool.
can you share the slides?
Yeah, let me do it. Hold on. Yeah, give me a second.
Okay, great. Yes, we see your slides.
Okay, cool. Let me put it full screen.
Yeah, put it, if you put it full.
Is it okay?
Yes, great.
Cool.
Okay, then in that case, I'm just gonna go ahead and start this academia industry Brain Hack School Industry Academia Synergy session, or we call BIAS, BIAS. Yeah, so it's my pleasure to invite Dr. Jeremy Lee, Professor Jeremy Lee from Tsinghua University. And I just want to, this is just an informal session, so it's not a formal talk. I'm not going to go through all the awards, but he's got a lot of awards and he's got a lot of money and he's got a lot of stuff. So, okay. And I think most memorable for me was because Jeremy, I know Jeremy through a common friend, Li Wei, who's at the NHRI, the Health Research Institute. And the first time that we met was when we were working on the face and the speech and the emotion database. I think it's about 10 years ago, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and it was exciting times, and we were busy collecting a lot of this nice data. And it was very cool because I think Jeremy was using all this data to use AI and machine learning techniques to try to see how we can get machines with all this data training the machines to then be able to interact and be applied into human usage more smoothly and more effectively. So that's really what he does is in his lab, as you might see, if you Google him, he's got a lot of these tools that span from wild research to, all sorts of research domains, and then to clinical, and then even to AI, technical usages as well. So very, very broad applications. And I think, you also note he's the director of the NVIDIA Center representation in Tsinghua University. I asked whether the other day, did you meet with Jensen yet? Because he's in town. And then like, oh, well, Jensen is too busy. Or whatever it is. But yeah, so I mean, obviously it's cool that you guys at Tsinghua, you all have a very nice AI center. And so you can do really cool work. And perhaps as we talk about this, some ideas would be this being Brain Hack School and people working with open data. There's definitely platforms and avenues where we can work together with engineering, people like Jeremy, and with people in Taiwan, Singapore, to start working with massive data that we have now that is to do with the brain, with neuroscience, with psychology, with human behaviors, and then to start improving our lives with whatever technology we have right now. Yeah. So yeah, I don't want to take up too much time, but I'm very happy to have Jeremy share with us his life journey. He asked me, is this going to be a kind of a sciencey talk or his life journey talk? And I said, please don't talk about science. Please talk about your life. I mean, there'll be science in there, but the students, I think, will really appreciate from a perspective as someone such as yourself who has been in this field for so long, to tell us, how do you get there? What are the problems? What are the perspectives that you take? And what is happening in this field as well? So without further ado, I'm just going to hand this time to Jeremy. We're going to have about 30 minutes of sharing. And then after that, we'll have the Q&A. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Joshua. So thank you for the opportunity here. I'm quite, happy to receive your email. I think it's been a while that we catch up. So, when I see this email, I'm like immediately say, okay, but, and then we finally draw down the time. As I was thinking through this talk, right? Because I know probably there's a serious stuff that's going on already in the Brain Hack School here. So I was talking to Joshua. I say, okay, if I make it very, very informal, meaning I'm not anybody that's famous, but I've been working in the field of cross-disciplinary or AI, human emotion. Across all aspects, pretty much, have an algorithm angle, but I really enjoy working with industry sort of expert. So many WE faculties traditionally don't see me as very traditional WE professors, but I think it's okay. So which that's something I like. I enjoy kind of this kind of research. It not only is scientific, it also has technology sort of and also industry application. So. So instead of talking through those sort of boring stuff, I feel like I can share my personal story, how I really get here. But it really is through some major events that never occurred to me that eventually I landed in Tsinghua with a lab like this. If you see the first page, this sort of in the background, that's my lab. Okay, so. We did spend some time, renovating an old space in our school and then do all sorts of stuff. So again, I want to just to show you guys, a unconventional or untraditional approach of, taking an angle, taking a direction in our life. And then probably this mostly talks to the students probably, and I need to learn from the faculties. I'm not gonna, say toward the faculty, but more toward the students. If you're thinking about doing some decisions or some major events in your life, what would I have done? And I didn't think it through much, but I think that leads to me to good positions where I can work on interesting problem, but with a actual impact across the board, both scientifically and technologically and even industrial applications. So that's kind of it. So I'll quickly go through them. It's like reading my bio again. So it takes a bit of time for me and my assistant to put together the slide. So bear with me. So the first time I do this kind of talk. So if I didn't do well, again, Josh, I'm sorry, but I hope I did okay. So anyway, so my personal and professional journey, I want to have a take-home message here is to enjoy with competitiveness. Okay, and I'll talk about the reason, and the sort of when I think back my path of my sort of choices, why I eventually come up with this answer, enjoy with competitiveness. Okay, let me move to the next slide. Oops. Okay, so here's the thing. I'll start from my high school. Okay, very long time ago. Okay, all the way to this point. So basically 4 or 5 different events that happened in my personal, right? That was from high school all the way to after school, more of a professional journey. So there are several stories I want to sort of share, and then just to give you guys a sense of what happens to me, and hopefully that sparks some discussions around why would a WE professor working on human-centered sort of AI problem, right? So that's really what I want to get at. Okay. So the first thing I want to say, the same patterns, I feel like I've taken it throughout my sort of journey, and every journey changed my career path a little bit or personal life a little bit. But every time I change, I was drawn to an interest. Okay, it could be very little interest. I didn't think it through. Most of a gut feeling. Okay, I like it, so I went on it. But I immediately hit a failure. Immediately hit some barrier. And I just take it heads on, say, okay, if I want to do this thing well, because I was drawn to it, right? So if I want to do this well, I just sit down and work through it. Okay, so treat my interest like a professional competitiveness, and then I think that really, every step of the way that really leads me to where I am right now. So I'll go through some of the events that occurred to me. Okay, so high school was basically natively born in Taiwan, right? All standard educational system in Taiwan. So, like every faculty here, probably you get good grades all the way through, at some certain point in time. And then probably in high school, I was bored. Okay, doesn't mean like I don't like the school system here. I found it challenging. Okay, it's not easy to get good grades. I had to study very hard, but I was bored. Like I was like, I don't know whether this is a good place. And then I was listening to many songs in English. I just told myself I couldn't understand them. Okay, I get very good grades in English exam, but I listened to a pop English song. Like I cannot understand the lyrics. Okay, I cannot re-sing the lyrics. Okay, when I actually go abroad during my summer times, I couldn't talk to many foreigners fluently, with conversation. So I just thought, okay, it might be cool to be able to do that. Okay, that's my interest. Okay, I didn't think much. All right, that was my interest. I was doing well in my exams, in high school, and then and then I told my parents, okay, I think I want to go, to the U.S. to study. Okay, of course there was I can tell them because I don't want to be very cool. I want to study at a very good schools and so on and so forth. But deep in my heart, really, I told my older brother, I just want to know that English songs because I couldn't understand them. Like I couldn't sing it out loud with that with the radio. So that was my decision. I jump into it. Okay, I immediately hit my first failure. Okay, as I walk into a class, okay, I excelled at every math and the science kind of course. But in the US, it's all about reading. Okay, no matter it's history class, it's a humanity class, it's English class. All of those classes, they have different course name, but from my eye, they are the same. You walk into the class, the teacher gives you 5 different books. Now it's time to start reading them. They'll test you on comprehensions. They ask you to raise your hand to talk about your perspective, opinions, and so on and so forth. So I hit my major, milestone of getting the worst ever grades ever happened to me. Okay, the first history exam, out of 100 points, I got 3 points. Okay. It's even hard, right? Because random guessing on some of those options, sort of numerical, you still get at least 30 to 40. But I got 3 points because I couldn't answer any of those sort of open-ended questions. And nowadays people use AI to answer them, but at the back in times, I have to write it, I have to read it, and do the stuff. So that was new country, new language, all these classes I couldn't really handle. But I told myself, okay, I want to understand the pop music, right? I need to be able to sing those lyrics. This is the reason why I'm here. It's not to learn math. I was like, all this math are easy, but at that time I feel like, okay, all these courses, be able to read about a book every 2 weeks, okay, for every class, and be able to understand and talk about them with perspective, stand upon your point, and then actually discuss with people, write down your viewpoint, and so on and so forth. I decided to sit down. Okay, entire semester, I just tell myself I'm just gonna read through them. At first, every 3 words I have to look up a dictionary and write the Chinese translation. Okay, I do that for every book I do. Okay, so it just it's crazy, but I just kind of sit there, treat it like a sports, treat it like very competitiveness, and I just want to do it. Okay, I didn't get good grades the second exam, no. The third exam, no. Okay, but slowly after this first semester, okay, I think I got a handle of it. I started to know. Okay, I started to understand the context of it, and then what also brought me quite interested is actually start to like reading those books. Okay, so it's not something I had experienced when I was in the Taiwanese sort of educational system, where we're all about testing. Okay, so we're about all the calculations. You need to make sure you're able to memorize everything. But there, it's about reading and reading and reading. I remember at a point in time, I came back from the U.S. and then during the summer vacation, I brought a book to my parents. Say, you guys got to read this. But they look at me like, what happened to you? But I still gave them a book, and then I know they never read it, but I just gave it to them. But anyways, it was sort of a kind of a experience for me. But I think that also opens up me from a very technical, scientific, math and sort of science-driven kind of a pure background, opens up to humanities, not psychology yet at that point, but humanities, English, history, all these kind of more of a what we call social science kind of a reading. Okay, I'm not going to talk about it as research, but that's where the first thing that opens to me. Okay, so that was my high school. Went okay. Now it's time to choose a university. Okay, I sent multiple applications. So I got fairly good admissions across different places. Carnegie Mellon, all these things that you guys know. USC back then wasn't super top. Okay, they were framed as University of Second Choice, right? USC, University of Stupid Chinese. That's another term, right? So there are many terms back then talking about USC. Okay, nowadays, of course, after a little while, it can become quite a good school. But Carnegie Mellon is always a good school. Okay, I got admission for both sides. Okay, but I have an interest. Okay, the interest is LA is cool. Okay, it's like, listening to an English song, be able to sing. That's cool. LA is cool. I like the energy there. I went there a couple of times as a high school with my friends. I like it. I feel the vibe. I feel like there's some diversity going on there. Electrical engineering, the term sounds cool. Okay. I got admitted to W department. So mostly it's fun. The LA energy, of course, if you talk to your parents, then they're not going to let you do it, right? They're like, okay, are you kidding me? You better go to a prestigious school. But I just say, okay, I'm going to follow my interest. Of course, I have to not make up, but I have to, talk to my parents and tell them, okay, this is the reason why I want to do it. But deep down, okay, just 2 words. My interest is cool. Okay, LA is cool. Right now, I'm still thinking LA is cool, but that's it. Okay, I don't have any other reason. LA is cool. Okay, so I decided to go in, started studying. Okay, it went well the first couple classes. Okay, then at the time in WE, you guys are probably all starting to know. Okay, in WE department, there are multiple tracks of emphasis you can put on. Okay, there are people that talking about. There are tracks that teaches you IC designs. Okay, that the tracks that teach you computer engineering. There are tracks that teach you physics. They eventually go to things like our quantum computing right now. Okay, there are tracks that go signal processing and communication. Okay, that's it. So before you decide on which tracks that you take, 3 or 4 sort of a track specific courses. Okay, so I took all of them. I hit the roadblock. The one I did the worst, signal processing. Okay. Because it's so abstract. Okay, I just couldn't grasp it. Okay, so signal processing is all about you're writing formulas, but you're dealing with signal. Like right now, I'm speaking. The speech you cannot see. You can only hear. Okay, you're talking on a cell phone. It's sending zeros and ones. You don't see anything, but that makes you and me can talk. Right? We are doing some images or video processing, but cannot see unless you show it on the screen. But there's so many math around this trying to sort of understand the signal property, Fourier transform, all this kind of very crazy math theories behind them. So that's out of the 4 major emphasis. That's the only emphasis I did the worst. Okay, so but then I was drawn to it. I found it very interesting. Okay, so again, that's if you start to see this rhythm of me, okay, kind of. I found it interesting. I found it very cool. But I didn't do well. Like I couldn't do well at that time. The first course I took is one of the worst class I taken, and then I say, okay, I'm going to take a second advanced course. Okay, many people that will just basically drop the same course, pick the one that they like as an emphasis, right? And I say, okay, I'm going to take the advanced course. But before doing that, I went into the library. I pick up a textbook. I read it. Okay. On first page to last page before I start my next advanced course. I still didn't do that super well in my advanced course, but I feel like I know a bit better. Okay, so that curiosity really pulls me in. That's the signal processing course is really the only course I didn't do well for all my EE major course at USC. But that challenge, I think I like it. I think it has some potential. I don't know where the potential is, to be honest. I just think there is. I have a strong gut feeling to it. But I treat that enjoyment, I treat that interest with competitiveness. Okay, because I know I didn't do well. I know there must be something interesting about it. So I sort of sit down and read through them and then, do things. And then really this paved the stone because my professor actually in the signal processing emphasis. Okay, so the PhD department. So as I finished this course, I approached him and said, I want to do undergrad sort of research. Okay, and then the first research gave it to me is emotion recognition from speech. Okay, that was the first thing, and I have no idea what that really means. How does that have to do with all the WE courses? And he was telling me all these formulations of signal and system where we treat humans as systems, with hidden states, signals as observable cues where we can measure using speech. Now if you have enough data, at that time there was no notions of AI. We call them machine learning or we call them statistical learning. Okay, you get the data and then you try to estimate model parameters and try to recognize the emotion from speech. Okay, so that was how I actually got into this field. Is because I did worse on one of the main sort of foundational course I had to take as an undergrad. So that's where things start. I jump in and I do stuff. So that open mind really opens the door. But now into my PhD qualifying exam. Okay, I did my undergrad research and I applied through the direct admission to the PhD program, which worked well for me. So I joined my professor's department, the professor's lab. Okay, so the sorry, I see if I jump this. Okay, yeah. So I want to show you guys this process. People think it's smooth. Okay, you starting to do a research, right? You join a department, like, and then people ask me, okay, why do you go on to this research? Okay, well, the reason I told you, right, it was interesting. Okay, I found it interesting. I did undergrad research with my professor because I think my signal processing did the worst. I started studying. And the real reason why I actually joined the Department of Electrical Engineering as a PhD student, because that's the only admission I got. Okay, so you apply across 10 different schools. Okay, that's the only admission I got because the professor gave me that admission. I applied to about 14, 15 other schools of the PhD program. Didn't hear anything. Okay, I just, hear nothing. Okay, so I said, okay, well, I found something I like. Okay, nobody likes me, so I'm going to continue to do the research I'm doing right now. So, that really, countless application only boils down to one. I joined it at that time, PhD program, because it's my signal processing, as you know, signal processing, it's like the current AI. It's really all about math. Okay, signal processing, it's probability, it's statistics, it's transform theory. Okay, it's random processing. It's all about this. So they have this qualifying exam. Okay, I've always been a very good student, meaning I get very good grades in many of these exams in course. Okay, I thought I was very confident. Okay, in taking the qualifying exam, miserably failed the first time. Okay, so I took the exam. Okay, you were competing with everybody across the world that joined the PhD department. Okay, with them they take 50% out. Okay, so every qualifying exam they say, okay, I'm going to rank everybody, all the 50%. If you're in a low 50% rank, give you a fail. Okay, so I was in that bucket. Okay, and then my professor came to me and said, okay, what happened to you? I said, I don't know. I think I probably need to start studying. Okay, so again, history repeats. Okay, I went back to my office, the student office. For the whole semester, there are 5 different courses. Each course take out textbook starting from the page 1 to the last page. Okay, so that's how I passed my second qualifying exam. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here, because once you fail the second time, you're done. Okay, you're out of the school, out of the department. So again, I didn't do well. I treated with competitives. I enjoyed this because the research I was doing was fun, doing motion recognition. Although I have no idea where it's going to lead me to. I don't know if I can ever find a job there by doing that. But I know it was fun. It was interesting. It was challenging. Okay, if I want to do things challenging, I need to compete throughout. Okay, I need to actually sit down and do stuff. Okay, so that's that's really shapes a lot of my student life with this kind of failures. Okay, with many of the options that I thought they were options, but really not an option. Okay, probably just because of my decisions through all this interest-driven thing, where I make my interest lead to a path where it's very hard to walk, but then I have to sit down and do things. Okay, then of course later on, that's how I think the PhD life also shapes me, where I start talking with people across discipline. Okay, I need to be able to talk to them, be able to work with them. Okay, to be able to write my papers and so on and so forth. I got a sense of talking to people, working with people is actually cumbersome. Okay, it takes time, right? It takes effort to realize what the other people are talking, understanding from their angle. I mean, those are some of the things I treated competitiveness, right? I don't know whether Joshua has that feeling, but we are, we can talk, right? We know each other's language. I think that I also make that as part of my training as my PhD student, because I know my professor really forces us, you want to do this exciting research. Engineers are not the only one that's doing exciting research. Many of the social science people, scientific people, they are doing much more interesting research about humans way before we engineers start. We need to learn, talk to them, understand their perspective, and so on and so forth. Right? So, anyways, I graduated. I found a job. Okay, for a year, I was doing well. Okay, but I didn't really like my job. Okay, it was good. Okay, I'm not saying the work is bad. Okay, it was a fraud detection sort of AI company where we actually assess humans sort of buying behaviors and using credit cards behavior to see whether the credit card is being faulted. Okay, so but it was not exciting enough for me. Okay, so there's a interest for me that want to continue some of this crazier sort of research direction where it wasn't back then, there wasn't seem to be any companies directly working on that problem. Okay, so it was more of a scientific endeavor and then curiosity driven kind of stuff. So I was in a company for a year. Then I started applying to the academic position. Okay, and only in Taiwan. Okay, because I was bored in the US. Okay, so I got this interest. Okay, say okay, if I want to do something a little different, now it's time to switch that kind of a path back to it's like when I was in high school, I got bored. in Taiwan during the educational system, it's time for me to learn something new. So I completely switch environment. Right at that time, I was sending out my academic positions application purely Taiwan, no other. Like in the US, I didn't send any academic position at all, no application. I didn't do any of that. So, but then that's how I started. I was faced with many people telling me no. Okay, it wasn't a good environment. You're not gonna get enough funding to do the things that you want to do. You're not getting the right set of students to do the thing you want to do. You're not gonna have the right atmosphere that you think you're actually running on a high resource, because in the US labs are running on a high resource setting. If you're experienced with that, you immediately see this is a very difficult positions to pursue your dream, right? So there are many sort of suggestions that came to me. Okay, but then still, like I said, professional and personal journey. That's the only thing that really draws me. It's basically interest, and then if I take that interest and I immediately heads on, okay, and everything starts to build up. Okay, so I come back. I know I've started with a very few students. I know the resources is constrained. I know PhD students are constrained. There's limited amount of funding, but I turned that thing as challenging and quite interesting. Okay, so I do a few things throughout my professor sort of a professional life. Back this is one of the things I think is hitting a milestone. Okay, I was running our not a lot of funding, but I started to work with some industry, okay, on some topics of AI, because that's when AI really shows. Okay, I save up some of that money as grant. So then I ask for space in my department. So about it's currently now about 6 or 7 years ago, and I did something that nobody has done. I actually asked a real professional designer, okay, to design a lab space, okay, for me. So it wasn't just having a new space that I can put student in. I asked them, okay, I have this space about 40 or 30 something to 40 ping, okay, space, and then but I'm not just going to put random chairs and then regular chairs in there. I want something to be designed, okay. So that of course costs money. Okay, of course there's a lot of different. They even design this. If you see on the screen, it's a box-like stuff. So it's think out of the box. So there's a box without an actual door. So we also put a thing out of the box here. Stuff like that. Okay, we take out the whole ceilings to make them, more like a industry looking kind of feel with a very nice sort of let's do it kind of the branding yellowish stuff over the ceiling. So again, I couldn't design those, so I had to ask a professional designer to do this thing. Okay, I spent almost all my saved up money just for this. Okay, so I mean, at that time, I just thought it has to be that way because I like it. It's interesting. I feel like that will foster communication. It will foster talking points and so on and so forth. So I don't think the space by itself really is the real reason why our lab is now the 30 people lab. We're running on about 11 projects to 15 projects at a time. But I think that does play some factors into the space. So I mean, compared to the US, we're probably not going to say we have a lot of funding, but I think compared to many people across in Taiwan's labs, we are probably one of the more well-funded lab, high resource. We've already graduated almost 10 PhD students. Okay, we have about 7 and 8 currently in lab. Okay, so 2 postdocs, and one of them also coming from overseas. We have about 20 master students. All of them are funded. Okay, so it's no small effort, but I think many of the problems that people were raising about Taiwan's academic system might see them, but it doesn't mean that you cannot enjoy that with competitiveness, right? So you can still enjoy the setting, draw from your interest, do the best that you can do. Okay, and then kind of have a research that's very interesting, still pushing to it. Okay, so I want to also share that this is 2026, the RL Lab, the designer actually enters into a competition. So for the design of a laboratory space, they actually got awarded a gold winner from the London Design Award. So I have no idea what that is, but as originally it was more of I want to make my lab look well. Okay, designer say, okay, now it becomes one of his portfolio where it can show to people that he even got a reward by working on a NTHU lab space, right? So, which I think is quite interesting as well, aside from the angle of all the research and all the things that's happening in our lab. All right, so I want to close it up things. There's very little technical stuff that I talk about, but more of a personal journey, professional journey. But if you look at them, they're very similar. Me, I just keep moving forward. Okay, at this point, AI is really hot, but back then nobody knows AI, right? So we're drawn to a topic that's very interesting. Nowadays, people are talking about empathic AI agent, empathic, emotional, spoken dialogue systems. Back when I was a student, nobody was talking about that. There was no real application about this. Now a lot of things are happening. Now robots need to be companion, right? Agents need to know your heart, okay, to be able to talk to you, right? LM needs to show empathy, right? These are now, like just in this year, okay. But when we're doing those kind of project, okay, when we're doing those kind of research, it was not there. It was more of a interest, but very hard. Okay, it was an interest, but very difficult. Okay, but we just keep moving forward. Not just me, right? Also the entire community. Many people like me go through the same process of studying all this kind of research. That's why they're now in the space, in the industry, pushing this kind of thing into their product. Okay, so do research, you define the direction, then that's how you define a new product. Okay, we shouldn't let that be the reverse, where we're trying to learn, what the current product is already have and then build that skill. No, I think we build the skills of research, then we know what new product can be developed. Okay, so that's really the reason, I feel like the reason why, okay, nowadays there's so many this kind of research as or even production of a product or commercial application that's happening, just because back 10, 20 years ago, there's this, like me, when we're back in our PhD or even, undergrad life, okay, this set of people are now across industries, okay, they are trained, right, in a particular manner, and then that's how, Amazon, they many of my colleagues are in those companies pushing this kind of research into a product, right? So you never know, okay, know your community, working with people, okay, open-minded, okay, get your interest up, okay, but then do it in a way that's very competitive. Okay, if your interest draws you to a place that's easy path, there's something wrong about it. Okay, so if your interest draws you into a competitive path, okay, do it competitively. Okay, because this thing adds up. Okay, the path builds up, and I think those are some of the things I always tell myself. Okay, continues to do. Okay, trying to find a very interesting stuff, like or interest me, okay, and then but then it has to be competitive. Okay, so I can sit down and still work it out. Okay, not just okay, that interests me, but I'm just gonna do it like that. So that becomes not very interesting. So challenging is still very important. Keep walking after all the fail, because that path will always lead you somewhere very good. Okay, so you can follow us. We have Facebook, we have IG, we have website. Okay, these are some of my students in our lab. If ever there's a chance, please welcome and then visit us. Have a face-to-face chat. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeremy. I'm going to open this time up for questions. People can post their questions on the message board, or you can feel free to just chime in, whenever you want. So please go ahead and use this opportunity to check with Jeremy if, like about your life questions and your career options. But I'm just going to start the ball rolling. And I think I want to, I guess I have two interesting things after listening to your journey. And in terms of I'm very curious about, you said your experience after you graduated from PhD, then you went to work for a year.
Yeah.
And you found that was not something that you liked. I was wondering, like, what were you said that it was not exciting or it's not challenging or whatever. Can you say more about, like, what were the signals to you that indicated to you that there's something that you don't think that you like?
Yeah. So there are multiple stuff, right? So for example, as I was doing my PhD, I was very drawn to this kind of research. So you would think about it, right? You at some spare time, you would think about, what's happening with my research, or what's happening with this research question, what's happening with this, a problem that I want to deal with. Okay, I may not have the solution, but you might want to think about it. Okay, when you look at a problem, you might start thinking in terms of your kind of a PhD training. You start formulating that as a hypothesis. You're thinking about what could be the reason. I'm going to start searching for, some literature or even more, you might start coding and start to do things. Okay, or at least you stop at a literature search, right? You want to look for stuff that somebody has answered that questions for you, and you keep having this, more question, more curiosity driven and those kind of stuff. That was my PhD. But then when I go into a company, okay, well, they give us, I'm not going to say they're easy tasks. They're very difficult, right? This large amount of data, you want to predict humans' behavior. That's difficult, okay? But because these are companies, right, the things are more well framed, okay, meaning, there are things that you just need to work it out, okay? And that working it out doesn't require asking questions, okay? You just need to work it out, okay, apply some of the techniques or skills that you already learned, and then you do it, it's going to show the results. And you just package the results and then they show that it works, and then and move on. Okay, and then there are a few times where you have this 20% of time you can work on your interesting stuff. That's the time where we can work on some interesting stuff. But that's but then they tend to not value that as much. So that means you wouldn't spend much time on it, because that's not like in PhD or in the academic setting. There is you're a bit forced, okay, to also be competitive in that aspect, okay, meaning asking question, finding the answer to that question, okay, write it up, okay, do an experiment and show people that works, or even do a prototype system. Like, even if you don't want to do it, there's some pressure either from your professor or from the granting agency or from whoever that's pushing you to do that kind of thing, move forward, right? So when I say competitive, it's not just me say, okay, I'm going to do well. It's a lot of external forces with your interests that start to align and do things. But in an industry setting, when I was experienced those, it's more of, okay, get things done, okay, get the model out, but the model doesn't much require me asking much of those deep questions. I need to ask, okay, can you give me permission to that data? Okay, I need to ask this kind of rudimentary questions, and then I start running models, debug the coding thing, and that's pretty much it. Okay, and then when you have free time, you do a few research here and there, but nobody really looks at it. If you do talk about it, they find it interesting, but more like, hey, that's interesting. Okay, but hey, that's interesting doesn't really mean that's competitive. Okay, so that's why I was telling people, right, follow your interest, follow your gut feeling. But if that path takes you, draw on that interest, but that interest doesn't seem to be very competitive, okay, that probably means something is weird. So for me, the industry aspect is, the work is challenging. I do good things there. Okay, there's a lot of money. Okay, the pay is much better. Okay, but then if I want to do interest stuff, the thing that's interesting, yes, they do provide that space in the company for you to do that, but that doesn't seem competitive. Okay, it seems like, okay, they just let you do out of your curiosity, do that kind of stuff, which I don't know. That's not for me. Okay, maybe that's for somebody else, but that's really not for me. So that's really the signal of me. I want something that interests me, but at the same time I can kind of pull my heads down and then compete.
Yeah, I think I have some other people who also work with industry. I mean, everyone has different interests,
Yeah.
and it does seem like some people with industry experience is like this, like they have some sort of a top-down goal for you,
Yeah.
and they don't necessarily want you. I mean, it's sort of kind of weird because they want you to create new things so they can sell it or to do some, but at the same time, they don't really want you to create new things. So you're not sure really what they want.
Yeah, I think it's also because it's it's their money making, right? It's a profit driven company, so they don't want anything to break, right? They want to make sure that consistency, reliability. So that also means breaking things is bad, right? So that means new things is bad. So not bad, but not super encouraged. Not going to be adapted super fast, right? So that's the thing.
But then, so in contrast, but now you are also working with some industries.
Yeah.
As an academic, but you have connections.
Yes.
So then how is this experience different from like, in that compared to like you are in industry and you are trying to do that?
Yeah, I think it's a major difference. So I think industry, when you work in a company, right, what's happening is you actually are assigned a task to complete and done. Okay, nowadays a lot of the companies that will work with, the companies don't know what they want to do. Okay, they don't know how they're going to do it. They know a direction that they want to do. Okay, so collaborate on that angle makes it interesting, okay, because we can together frame, okay, what needs to be done, okay, in your context of your company. Okay, so maybe this algorithm, this application, this model may fit well if you have all this data or that. Okay, and strategically, if you want to do this kind of direction, how can you be competitive across different companies? Then you get a different kind of it's not a test completion kind of a role anymore. It's more of a strategic reframing. And then once the strategic reframing, at the same time you bring in the students, they also learn to do that. Okay, so they're not just assigned a task. Okay, for many times students feel like they're assigned a task. Okay, a company give us a spec. Okay, hit this accuracy. Okay, hit this model size. Okay, now bring me back that thing. Okay, but then we usually don't do that kind of industry collaboration. What we do is really, okay, the industry want to do this. I have really no idea. They want to do, for example, recently we just if you see in the news, we work with Chen Lian, and so they want to do their call center speech data, sort of the customer agents quality check. Okay, well, they want to do this, but have no idea how to do this. Okay, they just know they want to do this. Okay, then they say, okay, we have all the audio recorded, but they're sitting somewhere. Okay, now let's start. Okay, so now we how do we go from zero and say, okay, now let's how much data you're gonna get? Okay, how do we clean up your data? Okay, who annotates what? Okay, what kind of model you want to use to do what of assessment? What kind of evaluation? Okay, when you're on the runtime, how do I make sure this thing follows what you guys are trying to do in terms of quality check? Okay. Then we build that system, we transfer that system, and then their engineering teams, take care of it. So I think this is a different flavor of kind of a collaboration.
But I guess you're coming at this because now you have a lab, a setup, rather than you're not working for them, but more like you're working with them.
Yes.
So this is preferred.
For me, yeah, but I think there it depends on people, right? So there are people that be assigned a specific task. They can do it they don't want to be open-ended, right? So there'll be some even faculties or professors or some researchers that feel like, okay, I want to drill very deep. Okay, I know what you want to do. Okay, but I can do it super well. Okay, that work too. But I think for me, I really enjoy this kind of reframing of touching upon the boundary. Okay, but that boundary really points to a direction where it actually makes an impact in whatever direction this company want to take, this industry want to do. And then I explicitly and also consciously bring my student into the entire process. Okay, when all those meetings happen, I bring students in. Okay, so they have to talk, they have to engage, not just me talking to this CEOs they're talking about the strategy. I ask students always join, always talk, because they'll realize, okay, the things they've learned, okay, it can be reframed in a way that pushes the boundary in terms of technology. Okay.
Yeah, pretty awesome. Thank you. So any questions from online? People want to ask questions, or even here.
Hi, Annabelle here.
Annabelle, yeah, go ahead.
Thanks, Jeremy, for sharing a very interesting life journey in academia and industry. Yeah, it's very unusual. It's very different. And I think your open-mindedness has really pushed you to different boundaries, across different boundaries. I think really appreciate you sharing that. I'm just wondering, now you have all this experience and, exciting career trajectory forward. If you look backwards, was there anything you might have done differently or would have thought differently?
I don't know. Okay, so I don't know. To be honest, I haven't really thought about it because maybe it's because of my sort of personality, right? So whenever I make a decision, I thought I make the best one. Okay, but a lot of time when I think back, okay, those are very short-term optimization. Right? For example, when I go to LA, it wasn't really because LA has provided any career opportunities. More of it, LA is cool, but I like it because I then I tell myself, right, when I look back and I say, okay, I might have gone to CMU. Okay, CMU would be a much better schools. Maybe people will treat me even more seriously. But then by going to LA, I made a lot of friends. Okay, cool friends that from very different backgrounds, which I like that quite a lot too. So, I don't know. So for me, when I look back, of course, if I were to make a different choice across different point in time, I may have made differently. I may have been growing into a different kind of person. Okay. But that's okay. Okay. So even if that's what happened, that's okay. Okay. Then that's why I'm telling myself, because I've gone through this process, I've become what I am right now. It may not be a good representative for everybody. It shouldn't even be a template for everybody. But what I was just saying, okay, what I think is the only thing I think that the critical part is some of the interesting things. If I didn't take it competitiveness, I feel I wouldn't do well. And then if I wouldn't do well, the things wouldn't build up. When I then build up, then your career path wouldn't have a trajectory that we're seeing right now, whether that's good or bad. Okay, so when you see a trajectory, it usually means there's something moving, right? You see something's going somewhere, and a lot of times, I also tell my students, put in a place where you feel everybody's very smart and competitive. Okay. Because then you will move, okay, whatever that moves you, okay, because you will move, okay, but many times people sit in a place where they're comfortable, okay, and it's not bad, but comfortable, okay, they'll get good work-life balances, they get things that they like, okay, even they do work-life balances, I always tell them, if you want to do work-life balance, the life part, okay, take that thing seriously, okay, because I always tell my student, this is the story I learned from my friends in the US, and there are many of them that like drinking, okay. When I talk to them about drinking, suddenly I realized how little I know about drinking. So that's life, okay. But if you want to treat life well, okay, you need to know. You take that competitively. What I mean is, of course, you're not going to compete with people, but you want to know stuff. You don't just drink, okay. You drink and they say, okay, there are 5 different kinds of drinks. These are, tequila had to come with this kind of thing, okay. If you mix it with certain kind of mixers, it'll taste this way, okay. You better taste this with that. They can spend an entire hour telling me, okay, this drink goes with that, and then there's a sequence of drink. You want to drink hard, you want to start here to there. Okay, the reason is that. So, this is really the sort of kind of my personality. Maybe okay. Maybe there'll be something if I were to come back. If my kids were to do some decision, I may tell them, okay. Instead of gut feeling, you might want to look a bit further ahead. But if the gut feeling is still having you, that's the part we want to go ahead. But you want to make sure that's competitive. Okay, so there's always something you can do differently. Okay, but for me, it's really every path as long as they take you to a trajectory. Okay, so the problem is asking ourselves whether the decision I'm making right now will take me to a trajectory of interest. Okay, trajectory means there's competitiveness in it. Okay, of interest means you're not gonna cry about it. You're not gonna complain about it because you choose that kind of route, right? So these two things combined will probably be the right thing to do. Yes.
Yes, it sounds like there's a lot of so-called risk, right, that you may be making, but it also sounds like you sometimes have to make calculated risks, right? Versus like just taking risk.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So shifting gears a little bit, because your research is also very exciting, looking into emotional recognition or BCI related type of work. Maybe to get your perspective with AI agents and all that coming into play right now, where do you think this field may be developing, or what area you think it can go into now?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there are areas that I am working in. Okay, whether that would be the area that would be a good direction to put in, that's another question. Okay, but again, some of the very interesting angle I'm looking at right now is the empathic agent. Okay, definition of empathy. Okay, operational definition of empathy that's scalable for engineering application. Okay, which I think this is a critical missing point at the moment. Okay, so we have a notion, or have a gut feeling of empathy. Okay, like we did previously a lot, like we do start with emotion. There's a gut feeling of how we define label of emotion, where that become operation. Okay, when it's operationable, then we engineers start to think, how do we operationally do that at scale? Okay, then you can build recognition system, right? So, and then the build recognition that's deployable. Okay, now this empathetic spoken dialogue, or this kind of speech AI agent. Okay, that empathy, that kind of word, I feel like I need to learn from you guys. Okay, how do we really operationally define that? Okay, and what does it mean? Okay, to have an empathetic agent. Okay, what kind of skills I need to have, and then the skill, does that translate? How do we translate into some operational definitions where either human have to come and help at scale? Okay, and also all this LLM and machines can help also at scale. Okay, these things has to be combined. Okay, to be able to make this thing sort of have a next leap. Okay, so that's one angle in terms of sort of empathetic sort of spoken dialogue agent. And another thing I always work in, I still think will have a major impact, is across the mental health application. Okay, that's the part I think academic positions will have a very large impact. Okay, so the many of the research there, I still think still lacking. Okay, we can diagnose this kind of mental health, but that's at the clinic stage, right? It usually means they're fairly serious. Okay, and at that level, okay, with that the doctor takes over. They need to work out their stuff and stuff like that. Okay, but how do we do this kind of well-being, mental well-being at scale? Okay, that's also something I found it also interesting. Okay, because now we have AI agent that can be our intermediate sort of agent that penetrate the societies across aspects, right? So how do we cleverly use these agents? Okay, assess, okay, them, okay, do early warnings and also stuff, in a way that's ethically governed. Okay, that's also another point, right? So many of these things are starting to pop up in my mind, which I think, in a sort of health application, that aspect. Okay. One last bit, just to share the thing that we work on. Again, it may not be what's gonna do the right thing in the future. Is we call it all-inclusive AI, where well, in a sense, it's working for LLM or all this AI technology for the minority group. Okay, that's what it really means. Okay, indigenous group. Okay, very low resource language group. Okay, because as LLM and all these agents has become the de facto stuff that people search, do things, right? You interact them with language. Okay, using language. Okay, so what that means, as time goes, the ones that are not in this technology are going to be washed out. Okay, the ones that have been washed out, okay, that part of digitization, that part of culture, that part of things are going to be gone. Okay, so because language, all this written stuff are in essence the way we preserve some notions of history, some notions of cultural background, and those kind of stuff. So in a world where, especially when it's being run by technology, okay, you get this homogeneity across the global thing. you'll see accelerate. Okay, so that's also something, and then technologically that's also challenging. Okay, because that means you're working on a very large model with very few amount of data. Okay, so those are also something that I feel like will eventually have an impact. Okay, to tell to the society. Okay, also in the academic position that also be, or research position that's also be quite interesting to handle. So I'm trying to also work in indigenous group people's speech and language, and their emotion. Okay, and then we're also recently in talk with people from Denmark. They also have their indigenous group. Okay, with only like 36,000 people using a certain kind of language. Okay, so how do we preserve all those stuff? So these are very cool, very interesting, very hard problems. Okay, that I also find interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, these definitely sounds like grand challenges, right? Very important questions. You could also ask, like, does language represent emotion in the first place? Right?
True.
Other things that can come in, but yeah, thank you for sharing your thoughts on that.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions online or here? Yeah, Ting had a question. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Ting from NCU. I do have a brief question that you made a lot of decision that is, I would say that you are aware, whether it's the long term or short term, but you are aware about your decision, whether this during that different period of time that the decision may bring you unexpected things to learn or experience that you have, or and they I don't know, that change drastically that you don't have time to prepare, or something like just unexpected experience that come from different stage of life. That's my question.
Yes and no. So I think it also comes back to this uncertainty, right? So I think a lot of questions when we raise about this question, like, would you have done something differently? Would you have seen something unexpected? That's really a retrospective kind of a viewpoint. In when I'm standing right now, I look back. Okay, if I right now, given the things I have known now, when I did that, was there something unexpected? Was there something I didn't want to happen, or was there something? But then back then, as I was there, okay, as I make the decision, the things would come. Okay, I don't think I had the capacity or even the mental mind or a set to say, okay, is this something I expected to happen? Is something I don't expect it to happen? It's more like right now, as we look back and say, okay, that's probably why it happened. Okay. But as you're experiencing things, okay, I think it's not that. Okay, like every student, right, go into a class and start. And right now we tend to over prepare. Okay, but then then you start thinking unexpectedness. But as I make all those decisions, like for example, right, yes, unexpectedness. I like the English songs, so I decided to study abroad. I go in there first class, I bumped my exam. Okay, that was unexpected, but at the same time expected, right? So you go into LA and it was fun. Yes, you walk into there. Yeah, it was fun, but you're hanging out with a group of people that don't really study, and then you do things here and there. Okay, was that expected or expected? Expected and unexpected, right? So, but it's okay. I mean. When I say it's open-minded, okay, and it's okay, okay. As every decision you make, okay, think about that interest, but think about interest as you carry, but do it in a way that's competitive. That's all I'm saying. Okay, I think every decision is okay as long as you have thought about it. Okay, think about it, but when you experience it, you choose a path that's hard. Okay, so and then you think back. Okay, probably it'd be something you want to do something differently, but you wouldn't be able to. Like, to be honest, for me, I wouldn't be able to choose a different track. Okay, because I was just experiencing. I had a hard time, but I didn't have time to say, okay, hey, I want to quit this because that was so expected. Because I didn't want to do that. Okay, because I choose I want to be here. I want this. I find it interesting. I want to do well. So I didn't have time to say, okay, I regret what I did. So I'm gonna walk away, so that I don't experience this difficulty or this barrier. I just sit down and do things. I may not excel there. Okay, probably if I go on another route, I probably learn those math easier. And maybe already publish more Nature paper than what I'm doing right now. But it's okay, right? So I'm just saying it's okay, right? Do that decision, think about it, but when you hit some obstacles, right? Just do it. It gives you a trajectory, it moves you somewhere, okay. But every part that it moves, you're gonna hit with another small or big decision, and then just think, okay, and then say, okay, at that short time optimization, do a risk taking, and then move on and do stuff. So that's my sort of experiences tell me, okay, as you are experiencing, you are just experiencing. So just carry it. Okay, make sure you're not taking the easy path. That's all I'm saying. Yeah.
I do have one follow-up question that
Sure.
because sometimes making decision you have to consider a lot of things,
Yes.
but also sometimes you could just do decision based on the whim or
True.
just go with your guts. But so during your different type of decision, do you consider yourself as a fast decision maker, or it depends on the task, or because different, like I said, choosing a school or choosing the major, that I would say, if I look back to my journey, I would say consider what I'm facing right now. I'm a PhD student, first
Yeah.
year. Choosing the major, it's, I would say, moderate
Yeah.
difficult.
Yeah.
But it's not that difficult compared to different things. But so that I'm just curious, how long did you take, or it depends on the task or something?
Yeah, so I guess it really depends on test, depends on people. Okay, so if you ask me, right? So what I think, what I see myself is, as I grow, okay, I start to think about my decision from a lot more angles. Okay, which may not be good or may not be bad. Okay, but I think as a natural progress as a human. Okay, as you start. Not like compare me now as compared to me in high school, right? So the decision I was making in high school, it was a single decision and want to listen to English songs. Okay, and then of course my parents will support me, right? So although it was my decision, but in reality it was my parents' decision because they have to support me, right? So but I give them a reason that I wanted to do, right? So along the way, right, every stage of your life, okay, you're going to be equipped with different capacities of think about your decision, and equipped with different freedom of thinking how you can control your decision. Okay, so so that depends on people, depends on the family, depends on circumstances that you're in. Okay, for me, like I say, when we try to answer this question, we always run to it retrospectively and say, okay, that's probably why it happened, how it happened. At that moment in time, okay, I only just tell myself, okay, assessing every things I have on my plate, regardless of what other people can influence me, because if they're gonna influence me, they're gonna influence me. Okay, so I cannot help but not telling them to influence me. I can only tell them what I think about myself, and combining everybody's decision, then you move on, right? So it's just like when you're high school, right? It's just your parents will tell you one thing, right? When you're choosing a college, okay, maybe your friends, okay, or your girlfriend will have a say. Okay, when going to a PhD student, right? Your parents, your friends, your advisor, they all will have a say, and you yourself, right? And in the news that you're seeing, right, all those things will have a say in your decision. But that's okay, right? So because you cannot change how all those people are making a decision to or suggestion to you, but what you can say is, okay, if I'm drawn to this, okay, and that where you really assess that drawing to this, and as you experience them, do I experience this competitiveness that as I was doing that kind of stuff? So true, every decision is different. Okay, every person is different. Okay, my suggestion may not be the right suggestion for you, but my suggestion is kind of experience a moment. Okay, you will know what you want to do. Okay, but I just be aware that you need to take the path. All right, that's a bit hard. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, wow. Thanks, Jeremy. I think we're at time now. So
Thank you.
thanks so much.
Thank you,
for
Joshua.
this. Yeah, no, it's a pleasure and it's an honor. And I think everyone had a great time. I had a great time. And it's very, heartwarming to hear your story. And I, look forward to the next time that we can hang out. I just had one question is, can I have some of that space in your lab? you should share that. Just a chair on the side. That's enough.
Definitely. Come. Everybody takes a
Yeah, we're
share.
coming to the bar next time, so then we can hang out.
Definitely.
All right. Thank you so much, Jeremy, and cheers. We will. Yep. Thank you,
Bye.
everyone. And then we'll see you next time, and we'll go back to the project pictures for everyone. And thank you so much.